What do you mean the immigrants are getting a check and we're putting them up in places that what? You mean in the homeless people's face?
Right in the homeless people's faces.
Like,
When they used to lose on Bullseye, what did Jim Bowen used to say?
let us show you what we could have done.
Let's have a look at what you could have won, yes, my friend.
Let's have a look at what you could have won.
Kick 'em when they're down, Jim. Rub a bit of salt in wound, my friend.
Wow,
Crazy.
that's not okay as a society.
So Joe Rogan made his triumphant return to YouTube yesterday in releasing a full episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, this time featuring Katt Williams. I watched a good chunk of it. I don't know if they were just on some like good herbals or something, but like it was so subdued and so like low energy that it was hard for me to pay attention. So I was kind of skipping around a little bit. Katt Williams made some wild claims that people are extremely angry about, in particular about Hollywood propaganda and perhaps a demonic reasoning around a certain trend that seems to be getting very popular. And that is, of course, the trans issue. The second they started talking about that, I knew that people were going to get upset. It's wild because, you know, I don't think they got into some wild stuff, essentially saying that being trans is demonic and that there's a demon responsible for it. I forget what his name was, but Katt Williams knew Bahamut the transgender or something like that. I don't know. It was they were having some deep level conversation. But obviously, you know, everyone on Twitter was extremely, extremely upset that they talk about certain demonic, you know, connections with Hollywood. And Katt Williams did say this funny thing. He said something about he knew that trans was going to be a thing because he never saw a man unsuccessfully wear a dress in Hollywood. And I was like, dang, that's actually pretty true. Based and true. But of course, the media think pieces come out and they're very, very upset. Katt Williams leaves Rogan speechless after linking transes to occult rituals and Hollywood propaganda. Comedian Katt Williams appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience to discuss a hot cultural events and issues, which included Hollywood's history of promoting propaganda within their films and national television shows. This is not new to us. We know that this is the truth. Quote, "The propaganda in Hollywood movies is built into the ingredients list," Rogan said. "It's like if you want flour, you need wheat. You're going to need to have the wheat. And if you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people. That you know, it'd be nice if you made it so that we're going to try to accomplish this, and it's going to show the negative side of this other society. This is our hero, and he's going to do America's bidding and go over there." And you're like, okay, those movies are successful, so they can continue this relationship. You become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government, and they turn it, and in turn, they don't F with you. I mean, that's probably not wrong. Katt Williams' response says, right, but what makes information so powerful is you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about, does following the ritual work? So if you can fool yourself into thinking that there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like, I was like, all these guys were wearing dresses. Everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. I'd say that's pretty true. Quote, "So in 20 years ago, I knew transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just that I had gotten so much information that I understood that things are circular. So I understood that the earliest I had seen the word transgender was Baphomet the transgender, Williams continued, referring to a pagan idol. So I knew that the ritual of this idol was to show allegiance to him. You had to kiss his the ring in his rear end. Really? Rogan responded. It said both of those things. So I knew that these things would become popular in the future, and somehow calling people the goat would be normalized over the sheep because people always the most popular references. Williams continued. He says, GD, we got some good weed, Katt. Jesus, Rogan said after a brief pause. This must be the weed talk, Williams joked back. I'm trying to figure out how to jump into that. So essentially, what Katt said was, look, there's this pagan idol that promoted this, and there was this ritual that you would, worship it. Now, from what I'm told, after doing some brief research, I think that that the idol was not trans, but in fact a hermaphrodite. You could nitpick the differences, I suppose. I think in that case, you're born with both sets of tools. And, some of the stuff Katt said was really out there. I think at one point he said he read like 100 books a day or something insane. Like he did make some wild claims. But this, symbol, for people that want to know, Baphomet, or whatever his name is the goat/human with the left hand up, right hand down. And that's on display at the Satanic Church in Salem. So a lot of what Katt Williams is talking about, demons, demonic contracts with people, things like that. Let me put it this way. I don't know if Katt was the first, but I'm pretty sure he called out P. Diddy. Didn't he call out P. Diddy a while ago when he was on Club Shay Shay, where he said, hey, I turned down $50 million 3 different times because of what it meant. He said he wanted to keep his beehole from getting pushed in. And he was talking about it in a literal sense. And he made some sort of reference like, hey, in order to unlock this kind of money, you're going to have to do this kind of stuff. I'm not interested. The comedian actor claimed Martin Lawrence tried to get him in his first dress in the 2011 film Big Mama's House, Like Father, Like Son. Williams said he turned the role down after realizing the situation and expressed his disappointment in Lawrence's push. Now, he does sound, some people are saying, he sounds like the jailhouse prophet kind of thing. And maybe all that's true, but it's not that hard to believe. Now, of course, The Root, which is a website that reports almost exclusively on black culture, from what I could tell, it says it's black news and black views with a whole lot of attitude. It says, here's how Katt ruined all his credibility on the Joe Rogan podcast. The comedian earned a bunch of cred for his Shay Shay interview and then destroyed it this week. I'm not sure why. Anyone familiar with Rogan knows that his very successful brand functions off tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. I disagree with that. Perhaps the most egregious in recent memory is a suggestion that J6 was an inside job. Williams walked down that bridge toward hell with Rogan, tossing out conspiracy theories old and new, speaking in his trademark tone and conviction that convinces folks that he must always be telling the truth. Unsurprisingly, the right-wing manosphere and that Hotep dude who would marry you if you dressed more like a black queen are loving this interview. You see, Katt Williams continues to trend the trend of problematic black male celebrities, leading into incel Q-ish right-wing conspiracy theories. We shouldn't be surprised. This wound that cishet men have about the dissolution of the patriarchy is dangerous. What? I'm not a big salad guy, but that's a word salad. Now he did talk about some of the wilder ones about fluoride in the water. He talked about the pyramids. I don't know. It seems like people are talking about the pyramids more and more, about how, they're built with modern tools. The people at that time couldn't have built it. There's no evidence of scaffolding, all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm actually afraid to go down that rabbit hole because I don't have that much free time. They're mad that he talked about Illuminati. Then, of course, the devilish trans agenda. So the Root obviously is, a site for black news and culture, but it's also extremely progressive. This website probably has all sorts of hit pieces about black conservatives, things of that nature. He wrote, he says, show me a person ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's what you understand. He said that he knew that, 20 years ago, this stuff, again, no follow through, just an association of trans folks with Satan. Bravo. And then, of course, they worship this guy. The very next article on this website, Billy Porter, the black drag queen gay guy that plays the fairy godmother in Disney movies now. Oh my God, he had to sell his house. That I don't know if that's but again, it'd be interesting, if you look at the way that, as I get older, for example, there are things where I start to think a little bit more about demons, things like, some sort of, overarching power or control or something along that nature. Now, the video already has 5 million plus views in 24 hours, and Joe Rogan gained 100,000 subscribers, or past adding 100,000 subscribers from that one interview, and his return to YouTube would probably be a couple 100,000. So, do I agree with everything that they said in the interview? No, but for the most part, yeah. Joe asks a random question. Katt looks at Joe, coughs about 2 times, smirks at Joe, looks at Jamie, smacks his lips, takes a breath. Here's the thing, Joe. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Katt was talking about is pretty out there, but that's what discussion is about. That's why they don't want, and when I say they, I mean, anti-free speech, pro-censorship weirdos. That's why, they go after Joe Rogan. That's why they hate Joe Rogan, is because he will have somebody on for 3 hours who will talk about some wild stuff. And there was absolutely some moments when I was watching this interview and I was like, what? I don't know about that, Katt Williams, but that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to, first of all, I'm allowed to be wrong and he's allowed to be wrong. That's all that we're asking for when we talk about having opening conversations, You see legendary comedian Katt Williams red-pilled on Joe Rogan's podcast after realizing the government is forcibly taking resources away from Americans for illegal criminal aliens. What do you mean these immigrants are getting checks and we're putting them up in places? What? You mean in the homeless people's face? That's not okay. So here's a moment that I'll share.
There's plenty of money for Ukraine.
Not even.
Yeah.
Exactly. How are we allowed to have a foreign policy when we are violating the policies here?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? What do you mean the immigrants are getting a check and we're putting them up in places that what?
He's not wrong. He's 100% not wrong. And this kind of stuff is hitting the black community because, I mean, look, being poor, being in need, doesn't care about your race. And, and ultimately there are lots of poor white people that look at it too, look at this kind of stuff and say, what the hell? But the government just eschews them by saying, oh, well, you're just a racist. But when black folks say it, they can't say that. So that's why they're so afraid about, black folks waking up to this kind of stuff. And then even the black community, like crabs in a bucket, when someone steps off, there's a reason of saying, the Democrat plantation, so to speak. When somebody gets out of line, they get either removed, like they did to Kanye West, I think, or they, get canceled, or they get reminded that you need to get back in line. They get their blackness questioned, which is something that in America, as far as I know, is a uniquely black thing. There are modes and methodologies to controlling. By the way, shout out to Joe Rogan's insane $70,000 race sim. And shout out to Katt Williams for actually seeming to be a pretty good driver. I've never seen anything like this, but dang, that is awesome. And so, Katt was sharing a lot of, oh, hey, look, here's my live stream. Katt was sharing a lot of, interesting stuff out there. But, yeah, the media doesn't like free thinkers, and they really don't like free-thinking black men. That's just the truth. And it doesn't make everything Katt Williams says automatically correct, but when you watch the response to the things he says, you'll see what I mean. What do you think? You think Katt was spitting facts? You think Katt was all over the place? I certainly think there's something to the Hollywood propaganda and the system of, demons making people do things. All I have to do is open Twitter to know demons are real. It'll be interesting to see the backlash from this.